Welcome to the Compact Disasters podcast from compactdisasters.com, the show where we explore natural and human-made disasters from around the world. This is episode 45, the Fidenae Amphitheatre collapse. In the year 27 CE, under the rule of Emperor Tiberius, the Roman Empire witnessed one of its most devastating public disasters. It happened in Fidenae, a small settlement just 8 miles north of Rome, a place that had never been more than a satellite to the capital. That day, it became the center of the empire's attention for all the wrong reasons. The disaster unfolded at the opening of a brand new amphitheatre. In an era when public entertainment was both a political tool and a cultural cornerstone, gladiatorial games were the ultimate crowd puller. For most in Fidenae, the idea of having their own venue was thrilling. It meant they no longer had to make the long trip into Rome to see the spectacle of armed combat, wild animal hunts, and theatrical performances. The man behind this new amphitheatre was Attilius, a local entrepreneur with ambition that far outstripped his competence. Unlike the great stone structures in Rome, his amphitheatre was built almost entirely from timber. Stone was expensive, concrete required skilled labour, and Attilius was more interested in quick profit than enduring safety. His design took shortcuts at every turn: lighter supports, cheaper materials, and an absence of proper engineering oversight. He gambled that no one would notice the flaws, at least not until after he'd collected enough money from ticket sales to make himself rich. The warning signs were there even before opening day. Residents noticed the structure seemed to sway slightly under strong winds. The supporting framework groaned when workers moved about on it. But Attilius dismissed concerns, eager to keep to his schedule. When the games were announced, excitement swept the region. People poured in from the surrounding countryside, from Rome, and even from neighbouring towns. Historians like Tacitus estimated as many as 50,000 attended, an astonishing figure for a settlement as small as Fidenae. The streets were jammed with visitors, vendors hawking food and wine, and performers entertaining the crowds before the main event. The amphitheatre, gleaming with freshly cut wood and decorated banners, looked festive from the outside. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Spectators jostled for good seats. Gladiators prepared behind the scenes. The noise built to a deafening roar as the first matches began. People stamped their feet in rhythm with the clash of weapons, sending tremors through the stands. Those tremors became creaks. The wooden beams strained under the weight. Then, without enough warning for anyone to escape, sections of the seating gave way. What followed was a chain reaction. The collapse began in one area but spread almost instantly, the failure of one section pulling others down with it. Whole rows of spectators plunged into the arena. Others tumbled backwards into the crowds behind them. Some were crushed by falling beams, others trapped beneath splintered planks. Outside the amphitheatre, the disaster was just as deadly. Collapsing sections spilt outward into the streets, toppling market stalls and crushing people who had not even entered the building. The noise was said to be like the roar of thunder, a deep, tearing sound that seemed to shake the ground. The panic that followed was indescribable. Survivors scrambled over wreckage, trying to pull themselves free or to reach loved ones. The exits, already narrow, were blocked with debris. People called out names again and again, their voices breaking as the dust choked the air. Many died not from the fall itself, but from suffocation, trampling, or being pinned for hours until help could reach them. Tacitus recorded that around 20,000 people were killed. It is impossible to know the exact figure, but the loss was immense. The dead included entire families who had come for a day of entertainment and never returned. For days afterwards, the smell of burning pyres hung over the area as the dead were given hurried cremations. The grief spread far beyond Fidenae, as many of the victims were from other towns, even from Rome itself. When Emperor Tiberius heard of the disaster, he recognized the political and social urgency of responding. He dispatched relief teams, soldiers, engineers and physicians to assist in rescue efforts and tend to the injured. He also ordered compensation for the families of the dead. This was not just generosity, it was damage control. Public trust in large gatherings was at risk, and Rome could not afford unrest over such a catastrophe. The Senate soon passed strict new regulations. From that point on, no amphitheatre or public entertainment structure could be built without an official inspection and approval. Builders had to show proof of both financial means and technical knowledge. It was an early form of building code, designed to prevent the kind of corner-cutting that had doomed Fidenae. Attilius did not escape punishment. While exact records of his fate are unclear, sources agree he was publicly disgraced. Stripped of any remaining wealth and status, his name became a warning to anyone tempted to sacrifice public safety for personal gain. In Roman moralizing literature, Attilius became shorthand for reckless greed, a man who traded lives for coin. The disaster also had a profound cultural effect. Romans prided themselves on engineering, the aqueducts, the bridges, massive stone monuments. The Fidenae collapse was a humiliation, a reminder that Rome's image of invincibility depended on constant vigilance. It underlined that technology could fail catastrophically if left in the wrong hands. In the decades that followed, timber structures were built with far more caution. Major cities moved towards permanent stone venues, and even temporary ones were reinforced to avoid another tragedy. The Colosseum itself, begun under Vespasian decades later, incorporated redundancy in its design. Strong foundations, arches distributing weight evenly, and a complex system of access routes to prevent crowd crushes. It was, in part, a direct answer to the lessons of Fidenae. For the people of the time, though, the memory was deeply personal. Survivors told their stories for years afterwards, of the moment the stands gave way, of the desperate search for missing relatives, of the silence that fell when the screaming finally stopped. Those who lost children often avoided public games altogether for the rest of their lives. The festive atmosphere of the amphitheatre had been forever tainted. Nearly 2,000 years later, the collapse of the Fidenae amphitheatre remains one of the deadliest human-made disasters in recorded history. It stands as proof that the pursuit of spectacle must be balanced by respect for human life, that the thrill of a crowd can turn to tragedy in seconds if those in power choose profit over safety. The regulations born from this disaster were Rome's attempt to ensure that never again would a day of joy end in mass mourning. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Compact Disasters podcast from compactdisasters.com. If you did, why not leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts? And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you would like to support us more directly, please consider buying us a coffee. Head on over to compacthistories.com/disaster coffee to see how. Also, please check out our other Compact podcasts. You will find them all at compacthistories.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.